our recording.
Welcome everyone to our class in Sefer Melitza. The Ramchal in the second half of the Sefer is explaining the rules that a person who wants to motivate should follow. And he brings us 4 different rules. Of course, the first one is the same one that we share with the person who's trying to communicate, that his language should be clear. Say his ideas sufficiently, not more, not less. The second one, in order to clarify, he brought us methods of explaining what you have to say, make it more clear to the audience. And then we discussed about lichazek roshim, which was basically the issue of repeating a content in different words or repeating words themselves. And now we're doing this 4th part, which he calls the Hagdil Hatzior. I said it was to impress, but it's to amplify your ideas and to shake up the audience and to have them get that unusual experience. So what were those? We did the first 6 of them, but he explained things like heter. He said it's better to meet a wild bear than to meet a fool in his folly. And himna, where he said, I can't speak about that. Or correction, where you say something, you say, no, what I really meant was this. Nevuchim, to be in consternation or confusion. Taluim Omed, this create a suspenseful opening. And I think we're up to number 6, so let's see where we are here. Yeah, yeah, this is Derek Shesh. Derek Shesh, so we can pick that one up. Let's get rid of that. Okay, the 6th method, he says like this. Hanasab devarenu mishmuenu el zlason. What we do is we switch our conversation from the audience or the person we're talking to someone else. When we said Tim Saharbe B'Kisvei HaKodesh, you'll find that a lot in the Tanakh. David B'Kinisol Shaul, Hofech Devarod Laharim Omer. David, when he's saying his eulogy for Shaul, he turns to the mountains and he says, Hare B'Gilboa, Al Tal Va'al Totar. The mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew or rain. Okay, and he continues. So, instead of talking to the audience, he turns to an inanimate mountains and he addresses them. Or in Yirmiyah, we have the example here that Ramchal brings. Simu Shamayim al Zos. Pay attention, O heavens, to this. Okay, I quoted the whole pasuk there. But the point is that from the mountains now he goes to the heavens. The prophet, excuse me, that's Eov. Yeah. The next one, Eov says, Eretz al techased ami. He turns to the earth and he says, don't cover my blood. Okay, so that's a movement of, instead of speaking to the audience or to the person you're addressing to, you turn to the mountains of the heavens. Hazinu et Hashemayim v'et haaretz, says Moshe Rabbeinu, doesn't Hazinu. Okay, the Derek Shvi'i, who heros pirsum emitis inyan ma ad shelo nechush lahavi raya al shivcho o levare genuso mipnei rov pirsumo. This method is when you show that something is so obvious that you don't even have to bring a raya to it. A mashal is that and sayinu b'divrei Chananya Mishael v'Azariah leNebuchadnezzar, when Nebuchadnezzar threatens them to throw them into the fiery furnace unless they bow down to the golden image. He asked them a question here. he says, if you don't bow down to that image, what's going to be? And who is a God who will save you from my hand? Powerful, boiling, whatever, fiery furnace. And Nebuchadnezzar says, who's the God that will save you from my hand? So the Nevi'im answer, Lo chashin anachna aldana piskam lahasavunach, which they answer, Nebuchadnezzar, we don't care to answer you about this matter. Okay, so you say it's so obvious that Hashem is going to protect us, so your ranting and ravings are not even worth an answer, because it's obvious Hashem is going to protect us. Okay, so we don't have to comment about that, as they say. Ubechlal zeh, in this type of method where you don't have to respond because the thing that you're affirming is so obvious. Ubechlal zeh shenakel davarav nekshev beinei hashomim legadol ukoved, when v'nidaber bo kadav katan ha'arech. What you do is you make light of something that the audience considers great and very serious and heavy, and you speak about it as if it's small. And shehi bahagia alehem dibor hefcho mamash lamash yitzarehu ifshar shelo yifal behem puls gadola. If what happens is, when you minimize something that someone thought that was great, so what happens is they say, wow, that's unbelievable. You mean it's not something very difficult? So it's that opposition between what they thought was great and you're minimizing it that sort of gives them that amazed experience. So then when you juxtapose that and you say what you thought was difficult is simple, and then you explain it, so then they really say, wow, that's something that's something that I never understood before. And he didn't bring an example of this, but I brought an example from Derek Tfunos in the Hagdama, where he says, don't think these rules of logical thinking are something that are so deep and far away from the understanding of most people. Ki einam el inyanim kalim v'niglim ma'od. There are things that they're really very simple and obvious, very obvious. All I did was make you aware of them, and I organized them. Because all these rules of logic are already found in your mind naturally. But as long as a person it's not made aware of them and they're not organized, they're not going to help them. Because and once you have the rules organized clearly, then you'll be able to understand very deep concepts with the system. So when we think of logic, reasonable thinking, so we think that's very deep, and you have to have a tremendous mind to really fathom that. And what he does is he pulls the rug out of that. He says, no, they're really very simple. It's already in your natural makeup. So, and then he explains why. The only reason why people think they're difficult is because they're not aware of them and they're not organized. But once you arrange them, then they become very, very simple. So again, what he did was, here is an example that he didn't bring, that I brought from his own work, where he takes something that people think are very, very deep and hard to understand, and he makes light of it. He says these things are really Inyanim Kal Ma'od. Okay.
So it's not using cynicism, it's just describing the contrast between what you would have thought on what the truth is.
Right, and then you have to prove it. But then you have to prove it. That's what he goes out to do. Right, exactly. But the person thinks it's so impossible to do, and he says, no, it's not at all. So that juxtaposition between something that I thought was impossible and saying it's so little gives a person the impetus to say, well, no, I can really accomplish and master these principles. So that's the method. Okay. So you take the excuse me, the wind out of the person, and so to speak, and what he thought, and you turn his mind around. Number 8, kesh nivaer noseim shonim benose kulam mimin echad ach mosefim v'holchim ze al ze. What you do in this method is that you take a group of nesuim, predicates that are each different, and you keep adding them to a subject, and you create this, I would say, this cascading effect, a waterfall effect, as he brings here from Devorim. V'yorehu osanu hamitzrim, Pesach. V'yanunu v'yitnu aleinu avoda kasher. So the Mitzrim made our lives very bad. What did they do? And they afflicted us, v'yitnu aleinu, and gave us very hard work. So we have these a build-up, a cascade effect, from Ra to Inui to Avoda Kasher. Okay. Or in Eov he brings Tiavunu v'rachuku meni umiponai lo chashchu rak. Eov says they abhor me, they flee far from me, and they spare not to spit in my face. So we see this cascading effect from abhor, running from him, to then spitting in his face. Okay. Now, v'hine rosh kulam inyanim abizayon. This is actually in both examples. Well, this is the last example specifically. They're all lashon of bizayon. How do you say that? Cheapening a person's state. V'kol echad mosif ala kodem lo, and each one adds to the level of embarrassment, one after the other. Aberration and fleeing and spitting in his face. So that's method number 8. Okay, this is method number 9. Derech hatishi shenema mamar shelachor yezav v'temua. This one is, you say a statement that's l'chara, very strange and doesn't make too much sense. It's very wondrous, you know. Rachok min haseichel, it seems that it's totally ridiculous. Ach sheba'atzmo yemiti, but the statement turns out to be true v'nachon, and correct. Elish yisadeh b'tachbula, but you set it up with this crafty setup. She'avil shom o keshishma'u b'terem tigala emitos lahem, because that you'll shock the person who's listening to it before you reveal the truth of what you have to say. So you say a very strange statement that doesn't look to be correct at all, and a person's mind says, what? He's a person who's intelligent saying such a strange thing. It doesn't make any sense. What is he talking about? That immediately brings him into the thing that you're trying to communicate to him. So he gives an example from Mishlei. Mivorech re'ehu b'kol gadol v'voker hashkem klala tichashev lo. Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, blessing your friend with a loud voice in the morning when you wake up will be considered a klala for him. Wait a minute, there's a contradiction. You're blessing himself with a nice loud verse. early in the morning so everybody can hear it. So why should that be considered a klala? It's a contradiction in terms. It seems very far away from our understanding that the blessing should turn into a curse. But when you think into it and you see the truth of the item, then you'll understand why it is. Okay, so I believe by overly praising a person, especially in front of the wrong people, so could lead to a curse for him and not a blessing. In this particular method, where also includes statements that seem to be impossible. Okay, so here, this statement was a contradiction, it seems. A blessing turned into a klal. How could that be? But in this category, it says anytime you set up a statement that it seems the statement is saying the impossible. The hainu. What does that mean? You put together two opposite subjects that don't belong together, or that conflict with each other, or excuse me, that conflict with the basic axioms, basic principles. But in the end, you find out that these, what seems to be opposites, are really not. He's going to give an example. This in Mishpacha this week, I wrote an article about some person who does glass and furniture design. So I called it wood, fire, and I forgot what I called it. Glass, wood, and fire, something like that. Okay, so wood and fire normally don't go together. So I put the two opposites together, and then you understand that he works with glass and melts the glass, and then he puts it inside the wood. But that's a method of gaining interest by putting in one sentence things which seem to be opposite. Sorry, this juxtaposition of opposites, or that things that go together, will amplify the picture of the thought you're trying to present, and will activate the mind of the listener. Ki hatamia asher tagdimehu hine torer hasechel hisoris gadol. The wondrous statement that you're making, which, I mean, it's wondrous, this thing, the two things go together, will waken up the mind of the audience tremendously. They wrote, how would it be that these two things can go together? And after, when you reveal how these opposite forces can exist, and then the thought that you're trying to express will be very, very powerful. Because what you did was you created a taiva, a desire for the audience to hear how is he going to put these two things together. V'teva hatachlis hamusag acher hataiva sheyeh yakar etzel misigo.
Sounds like he's saying that it's
the
nature
of the nature of thinking is to be excited about something that's very precious. In other words, when you give an unusual juxtaposition of two things and then explain them, that awakens a person's mind and says, "Ooh, wow, that was a tremendous chiddush." Okay. He says, "V'hinei b'chlal zeh, natchil b'davar ba'ofen yizbiru hashomim lefi hamilos harishonim yeh gomer hadibur inyan echad." What you do, and this is also in this category, what you do is you begin to speak, and the audience thinks that you're going to conclude in one way, and then all of a sudden you finish your statement with something totally unexpected, or something that's different than what they thought the end of the statement was going to be. He gives a very nice example here from Chazal. The Chazal in Sot explains on the pasuk v'yahas kolev es ha'am, and this word v'yahas, what does v'yahas mean? So the Gemara in Sota says sheschil v'omer, what he did was he began his, after the spies, with spies, when everyone came back, all the spies gave a bad report, all the people are nervous and they're ready to explode, and now Kolev has to now speak to them and to explain to them that they should go to Eretz Israel. So he began, the Gemara in Sot explains what happened. What he began to say, it's not written in the Chumash, but this is the Torah Shabbat. V'chizo bilvad asalanu ben Amram. Is this the only thing Ben Amram did? Now he's calling Moshe Rabbeinu Ben Amram, not even by his first name, and he says he's accusing him. It sounds like he's going to now continue the spies' degradation of Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So now everyone is told Ben Amram. This is the only thing that he did. I'll tell you 50 other things. That's what the audience is expecting to hear. But he doesn't end his speech except by talking about the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, so here's a little piece there. Omar Rabba, he excited them with his words. Pasuk Yeshuva kom mishtai amrile din rosh katia yamale omre I mishitaina amre be miltev hasminli. So he said, when Yeshua began to talk, he said, would this person with a lopped off head speak to us? In other words, Kolev said to himself, if I address them in the manner, in the same strain as Yeshua, they will answer me in a like manner and silence me. So Yeshua had just spoken; he has to speak. They're saying, okay, here's another one of these foolish guys going to speak. So what does he say? And what we just said is this is the only thing that Amram's, the son of Amram, has done. So they thought that he was speaking to Sencha Moshe, and they were silent. Then he said to them, he brought us out of Egypt. And then he said what he said. He brought us out of Egypt, divided the sea, fed us with man. Okay, and if he told us to go to the heavens, we should do it because he's such a great person. So the point is, they were all set up. Here you see the necessity for Melitza. Kolev was facing a terrible, aroused crowd who were in a total panic about coming to Eretz Israel, and would not hear anything about what they had to do correctly. So he understood that if he was just going to tell them what Yeshua did, which was that's a great place to go, Hashem will protect us, everything, they'll never listen. So he tricked them by saying a statement that L'chora they were in agreement with, that Moshe Rabbeinu was incorrect and not proper. And once he had their attention, then he turned it around and he said, Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest person. Okay, so a lot of humor is based on this. A lot of humor is based on the fact, right, that you take a person to you lead him on into one stream of thinking, and then at the end, all of a sudden, you switch it around and you say, "Ah, that's very funny." Okay, so that's the ninth method. We'll be asking you to practice these things. Okay, some of them we do some of these things we do naturally, but some of them, the whole idea, again, as the Ramchal said, their tefillah is to have us have an organized package of these ideas, and then we'd be free to theoretically think about it and also produce any which one. If we see one's not effective, we'll try something else. Okay, derech ha'asiri hu haramiza. Okay, hint. V'hine shebemilos mu'atos nirmaz habe. You take certain words which signify a lot. V'zeh kasheteva ha'milos hahen yarir ha'seichel ad inyanim rabim. There's certain words that, when spoken, bring up a lot of ideas in the listener, in the audience. Hishote behem haseichel ad yidei so mila arishona shehit raso. So, and the mind starts thinking about those the words that you used, and brings up all sorts of thoughts. It brings a very beautiful example from Rus. When Rus comes back, she's lost everything, lost her husband and all her wealth and all her fame. It says, "V'tahom kol ha'ir alehem," and the whole city was abuzz. V'tomarna, hazos Naomi? Is this Naomi? So by saying this and by not spelling it out, it brought up all the memories of Naomi, and in juxtaposition with who she was now. So it's a very powerful thesaurus, excuse me, in the side of the listener to see the great the great fall that she's gone through. Is this really Naomi? Is this what's left of her? Okay. So he explains, the word hazos, is this Naomi, wakes up the mind of the people who are listening. Seichel hamedabrim. V'hashomim mahen. Oh, why should you saw Seichel hamedabrim? V'hashomim hahem lishot b'mashi askir lehem mimatzava. Shel Naomi b'zman gadul so. So what it does, when the person uses that speaker, it arouses all those memories in the listener's mind, and they start going through all those images of Naomi when she was a great person. Kavodah, Maseha, her honor and her the actions that she did. Umasharoim Boata. And now, and that'll be juxtaposed with what we see now, her poverty, her shvelus, her lowliness, marzuna, merizona, I don't know what merizona is, merizona, maybe she's very thin. V'kol shah hamikrim shehem hataluim bo. So that one word, hazos, wakes up the memories of what was and what is now.
So basically, in one word, Ram is a whole idea and concept,
right,
which gets the listener to understand what the message. It's just a remiza, a hint at something.
Exactly. Derech echad, that's right. The 11th way is shenira atzmenu sholim shomenu atzmam. We seem to be asking the audience themselves, Ma Yomu Minosenu. What do you think about this? We turn to them, well, what do you say? Well, what do you think? V'hine zeh hechriach osam lahaskim al datenu mibilti yosef shebehem shechalek olav. When you do that, it's a rhetorical question. You gain that they agree with your idea. To agree with our idea, with any, it prevents them from arguing with you. So here is his examples from Yeshaya. Halazet tikratzom, tzom Hashem says, what you're doing now is considered a fast. So you're not really asking them. You're saying it's obvious that it's not, but you're doing it in the form of a question.
Well, he's saying what you're doing in the form of a question. So he's saying the form of a question like this allows the listener to buy into your idea without them arguing with you.
Exactly.
Is that what it's saying? Yes.
You call this a fast, a day of man afflicting the soul. Is it to bend his head? What would you think is fasting? This is what Hashem wants, right? So you're not exactly by asking the question. You're already giving the answer. You're saying it's obviously that Hashem doesn't want it. Okay, or Ha'al elu lo efkod neum Hashem. Hashem says, on these, shall I not punish them for these things, says Hashem? Shall I not avenge myself on the nation such as this? Okay. So he's not asking a question, but it's in the form of a question. It's a rhetorical question, which says, of course I have to destroy or take vengeance. Okay. Ma'aseh lecha Ephraim, ma'aseh lecha Yehuda. Now that one, yeah, oh, exactly. Ma'aseh lecha Ephraim, ma'aseh lecha Yehuda. What can I do to you, Ephraim? What can I do to you, Yehuda? For your loving kindness, what I say, is like a morning cloud and a dew. Okay. For your loving kindness like a morning cloud and like the dew that passes away early. You're not faithful to me. Okay. So what's there to do with you, Ephraim? What's there to do with Yehuda? Your love for me is just evaporates like the dew. Okay, so again, it's using a question which the answer is obvious, so to speak, and you force the listener to say, well, it's obvious that we haven't been doing the right thing. And that's why Hashem deserves to do what he has to do. V'hinei klal kol hashtadlis hazeh hu la'ir lev hashomim lifol bo b'koach. The whole idea of this type of speech is to motivate the people listening, the heart of the people listening, to do something. You know. V'ulam ba'dayhu hishtadlus tzarech shishtaneh kefi tachlis shemavakesh la'asig. But he warns the person who's speaking that using these types of activities have to be equivalent to the goal that you're trying to accomplish. Kihine pam nitztorich laha'ir belev hacham. You're going to have to use different emotional methods of motivation depending upon what result you want. So sometimes you'll want to use chemla, pity, pam hanakama, sometimes revenge, pam hachna'ah, sometimes obedience, pam hayira, sometimes you're going to have to appeal to fear, pam ha'az, courage, v'chein kol kiyot. So depending upon the nature of what you're trying to do, you're going to have to use these various emotive languages in order to get the proper result. And therefore, in truth, he says that according to what you want to arouse a person towards, so then you're going to have to organize your speech in the proper way. Vishar Hadirachim Kiyotsebo, and here's some, and all the other methods too. So he says, here's a whole list. He's going to go through them. Excuse me. Kriya, shouting at people. Tamia, being in wonderment. Shayla, asking. Bavakasha, requesting. Tyla, lusting for. Achno, submission. Baharos sichlus davar, or showing how stupid things, the things that the person is doing is absurd. Kulam timseinu bekisvei hakodesh pam rabos. There's many examples of all these emotional languages in the Kitvei HaKodesh, in our holy writings. Now he's going to go through these 7 that he just brought out. Okay, and again, as we mentioned, the Navi is supposed to arouse, and that's why arouse people. There's no, Navi doesn't, it's a source for the Navi to mechanish anything in Torah. His idea was to get the people to do the Torah, so he had to arouse them, and he says a careful study of the Tanakh, you'll see that all these methods are used. So here's his list. Kriya, shouting out. Okay, this one is from Yeshaya. Hoi goy chote, woe to the nation who are sinners, says Yeshaya. He shouts out at them, hoi, woe to them. Or in Yirmiyah, hoi roim, ma'abdim esoni, woe is to the shepherds who destroyed and scattered all my flocks, says Hashem. He shouts, oi, 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 to them. Tamia, wonderment. Eich nafalto mishamayim. How have you gone down, fallen from the heavens, the morning star? You have been cut down to earth. You who cast lots on nations. Okay, so that's Tamia. Eicha, Yoshua, how did, in Eicha, how could it be the wonderful city is now lying in ashes? Okay, or he brings another one from Yirmiyah. Eicha amru chachamim anachnu. How could we say that we're wise? How can you say we are wise and the law of Hashem is with us? Behold, it's in vain he made a false scribe's pen. Okay, again, how could you say that we're wise? Okay, to me, a wonderment. Eich etencha Ephraim. How shall I give you Ephraim? How shall I deliver you, Yisrael? Okay, so, to me, a wonderment. Shayla, there's a question. Okay, Lama lo merachem amos. Okay, that's a terrible statement in Iyuv. Why did I not die in the womb? Why did I not emerge from the belly and perish? Okay, very powerful, using a rhetorical question. Medua kadmune. Why did Medua kadmuni barchaim? Why did the knees receive me? Means, I think, why it's another way of saying umash daim kianak, and why were there breasts so that I should suck? Again, I should never have been born, really, that's what he's saying. Okay. Or Hashem says, Lamali roves of Achechem. Why do I need all your sacrifices? Says Hashem. They're all, so that's a question of a rhetorical question. Very powerful. Mio eitz zos al tzur hama'atira. Who planned this all on the royal city of Tyre, whose merchants were princes, whose traffickers were honored on the earth? Who did all this? Says Yeshaya. Okay. For later study, we can investigate why the Ramchal gave 4 different examples. We'll just go through them. Okay. Bahalo. Bahalo is to be bewildered, right? Oh, no, excuse me. Bahalo is not as cursed. I'm sorry. Just the opposite. Terrible. No, not the opposite. No. Okay. Allah is a curse.
What does that say in
Koyas?
in
Imprecation. I don't know what imprecation is. If you looked up these words in Latin or in Italian, you'd probably get it. But it's Allah is a curse. Koyase Hashem koyosifli. Okay. This is in Rus, right? Where you die, I will die, and there I'll be buried, she says. So may Hashem do to me, and so may he continue, if anything but death separate me and you. So it's okay. She says that Hashem should do to me all these terrible things if I separate myself from you. So it's halo, curse. Katve mishichmo tipol. This is from Eov, terrible. My katfayim, my shoulder from my arm should fall. Okay, not very nice, but very powerful use of halo, he says. What's this example of taiva? Taiva. Mi yitnenu kiyarche kedem. Oh, who will give me those? Who will return those early days when I was a child, as in the days that God watched over me? I mean, this is Eov when he's filled and racked with pain. He's calling back and lusting. I don't know a better word than Tyra for lust, but he's lusting for those days when he was a tzaddik and everything was going well. Okay, who could give me those wonderful months, those past years? Okay, when Hashem watched over me. Okay, Yirmiyah, mi nenu b'midbar. Nitnen b'midbar, malon orchim, v'azva es ami v'alcha mitam. If I only had a malon, a wayfarer's place in the desert, that I might leave my people and go away from them, for they are all adulterers and traitors. So he's lusting. He's lusting for a place in the desert to be alone and separated from all these terrible people who just are rebelling against the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Who could give me a wonderful place in the midbar to be away from all these people? Okay, another example from Tehillim. Mi yitenli aver kiyono. Who could give me a wings like a dove? If I only had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. Okay, but it's not if. Here they translate it's not if. It's miyatan. If I, well, you can't say it another way, but who could give me wings that I could fly away? Okay, so that's all what he calls taiva. Okay, so now he has bakasha. Okay, to ask. Ki sha'alna ledorishon. When the early generation asks you, v'konein l'chaker osav. Okay, he translates it for ask about what the early generations knew, and then do what they discovered. The next example from Eov, Heschena mi v'shalom. Accustom yourself now to be with him, and you will be complete. With them, good will come to you. So I didn't understand this one. How's the question? Heskem na. Okay, I did that one. I didn't get really. Okay, so that's all questions. You know, it's supposed to be, you know.
Well, Balakash is a request, no?
Hachna. Yeah, to request.
So they say,
ask the early address.
Please.
Oh, okay.
Hasken
Please.
No, it's a lotion of please, no?
Yeah, right. Please. Haskem na imo. Please ask him, I guess, a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and you'll be complete. Yeah, that's right. Good. Okay. Then there's Hachna. Convocation. Tishon, I don't know the Italian, but Hachna, to bend yourself. Shimu kinagidim adaber. Shimu b'nei Musa avicha. Listen. You're asking, you're begging people. Listen, for I will speak noble things. Listen, and to the Musa of your fathers. You're begging the audience, please listen. Friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me your ears. Okay. That's number 8. Number 9, Mahara Sichlus Davama. Show the foolishness of something. And here he says, we'll find it in the Gemara, where it says, Lo chilak yadana v'lo balak yadana. Interesting Gemara. Rav Nachman, it's a Gemara in Chulin. Eksha mishipu kova lamata, and we went through Chulin there, and the part of I think the vocal cords, when it got thin, and if the knife was done, the shita was done in that area, he said it was okay. Omler of Chanan bar Katina, the Rav Nachman, come on, who are you holding like? Loka Rabbanan, the Loka Rebbe Yossi, the Rebbe Yehuda. So Rav Nachman answers him back, and he says, Omale, Ana lo chila kidana, v'lo bila kidana. Ana shmaisi yadana. Okay, I don't know the Schilik and Bilik, all these guys that you're are quoting. I only know the Bryce. So that's sort of, I think, ridiculing the audience there. Okay, who's the Schilik and Bilik? It's not so nice following these Rabbanan and Rebbe Yossi Bar Yehuda Chilik and Bilik, but that's a method to shock the person and to say, look, I have a Bryce, I don't need these other people. Okay, but that's called sichos. Okay, here's another example. Many married below Yadanale. Okay, it's also, who is this married? I don't know. It's a whole long Gemara over here. Amar Atin Sadikim Dahayu Afra. In the future, the Sadikim will be dust. The Kasiv Yeshuva Afra ala Aretz. Kashia Hano Kafule Bahave Kafle Ba'ara. Okay, that's what that meant. So Mari said that the righteous are fated to be dust, for as is written, and the dust returned to as the dust returned to the earth, as the dust returned to the earth as it was. So now there's this whole story about these digglers. These people were digging in the Kafla Bahar, the Rav Nachman. So they were digging in the earth there, and Nacharbo, and he yelled at them, Nachabahu. Rav Achai bar Yashai. I'm sorry. So this Rav Achai bar Yashai was nacher. He snorted at them. He yelled at them. Also, were Omalei the Rav Nachman. So they ran to Rav Nachman, and they said, wait a minute, this rabbi started, yelling at us. Asava omale man nihumar, omale ana achai bar ashi. So he called in Achai bar ashi. He said, why are you yelling at these workers? Omale v'lav omarav mori atit tzadikim. Afar, this didn't Rav Mari say in the future the tzaddikim will be afar? So there's probably tzaddikim in the afar over there. Omale umeni mari de lo yadanale. Who's this guy Mari that I don't know? Okay, so in other words, he deprecated him and he said, who's this guy? This Mari. No idea who he is. He's nobody. Okay, so that's a question of putting a person down with a not so nice comment. So he says here now, V'tzar sheteda'ot, ki milvad shepulos sheyafalu kol haderachim ha'elu shezechanu b'ratzon b'seichel mitzad atzman, hine inyan klali yesh bekulam שגם מצדו תגדל פולסו בשכל, וזה כי מטבע השכל האנושי לאהוב את החידוש. It's a very important one he says here. He says, besides all these emotive processes that I just explained, which arouse the will and the mind, there's another general rule about motivation. When you want to motivate someone by increasing the idea that you're trying to present, and that is the nature of the mind of people is to love chidushim. They love to see new things. If you can show someone new, then it immediately inspires people to listen. Ubechol makom asher yemotze chiddush him hamsa'or. Anytime you find a new way of bringing something out, a hamsa'or is, as we learn in Higayon, a new idea. Umalacha musudaris, and also your work in presenting your information, whether it be written or oral, is misudar, it's organized, umitukan, and also it's free of errors. Hine yishtasheyabo v'yisaneg. The audience will enjoy and get pleasure from what you have to say. So this is an important rule, that you should always say something that's excitingly new, okay? And of course, it has to be properly organized and free of errors. But this newness is something that wakes up the mind. Well, I never heard that before, or I never thought of that before. V'alkein kol mamashavo b'sidur na'arech v'no'im yinaim. Therefore, any statements that comes in a properly organized way, in a very pleasant way, the more you work on your speech, to find new ideas and to make sure that they're properly ordered, yoter yarev alav, then people will enjoy it more. So the more that you work on your presentation and make sure that it's pleasantly organized and is saying new ideas and new concepts, then you're going to know that your audience will be pleasantly accepting and understanding. Ubiyos b'kol elo haderachim chidush hamsa'or nechona al kein kulam yarabo. Since your chiddush will be properly organized, then the audience will be able to find pleasure in it.
It's amazing how well he understood the human psychology.
Maybe we'll. Yeah, and how much of a master he was of all the principles also. So maybe what we'll do is we'll stop at this place. Okay, and we'll stop here and we'll pick it up next week, Bezrat Hashem. Okay, there's so much here, you know what I mean? There's so much information here, and the important point again is to see it, understand it, and hopefully master it, and not be so limited to what we do naturally, but to broaden our base of communication. That's this whole idea over here, to make things, as he said in Tfunos, to make things organized in a conscious way. But okay, so we'll stop here. We'll pick it up next week.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to do what I'd like to do now is something document, and that with the Torah Shabbat Peh we're able to get into that depth and understand it. And people are not aware of that, so I'm going to give a little introduction and see how it goes. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.